WJET TV 24, Erie.
Good evening, I'm Hugh Downs.
And I'm Barbara Walters, and this is 2020.
From ABC News, around the world and into your home, the stories that touch your life. With Hugh Downs and Barbara Walters, this is 2020. Tonight, you'll meet an amazing young girl.
There's so many kids that are out there being abused, and they need help.
She was violated by a trusted adult, but overcame her fear.
I was afraid that he would hurt someone in my family if I told.
She took him to court, put him behind bars, then went public with her story.
I felt that I had to do that for the other children.
Tom Gerald, with a little girl you'll never forget. A champion for the silent victims of sexual abuse, making him pay. And a dramatic race against time. Infants like these won't survive without a new heart. The search for donors is underway. An anxious family waits.
He's just my little guy, and I love him.
Then, Hugh Downs takes you on a flight of hope and into the operating room for the critical transplant.
It's a miracle. It's an absolute miracle.
A story of joy and tragedy. To save the life of one child, another must die. A gift from the heart. Plus, you saw Nancy Kerrigan right after the attack. Now, follow the bizarre trail of the men charged with the crime.
One man said, why don't we just kill her?
Police say they crisscrossed the country, stalking the victim, trading information and money. How did the plan unfold? How much did Tanya Harding know?
I had no prior knowledge of the planned assault on Nancy Kerrigan.
Lynn Shure traces the crime that shocked the country. The Kerrigan plot. Those stories tonight, January 28, 1994, after this brief message.
Hi, I'm Mark Anderson with MCI. Making sure our customers save money is the best way to keep them our customers. We'll even do an analysis for you AT&T customers.
We're back again with more actual bills of AT&T customers.
They're each on a popular savings plan. They average $46 a month on calls to each other.
If they joined MCI and our new savings program, Best Friend, they could save $215 a year on calls between them.
Not to mention the savings they can get on other calls with friends and family.
Call and we'll prove how plan for plan, state to state, MCI will save you money over AT&T.
Over the years, we have seen and heard of many trials of child abuse. In almost all of them, the children have not been identified publicly. In fact, that was the case just this week with Michael Jackson. His accusers settled out of court, never having revealed his name. Tonight, you're going to meet a young girl who was sexually abused and decided to speak out about it in a most courageous and unprecedented way.
You know, this may be the first time that a child has pursued her attacker with such determination, revealing not only his name, but her own, and hiring a well-known lawyer to make the case. And she didn't stop there. As Tom Gerald reports, she's now an inspiration to other victims like herself, the thousands of young people who have been handling the pain of sexual abuse alone.
In her baggy pants, untucked shirt, and sneakers, 13-year-old Desiree Bartok looks every inch the 90s teenager.
Stand by.
But her life is in no way ordinary. Today, she has flown from her home in California to Chicago to appear on a national TV talk show.
Desiree Bartok is 13 years old, and tomorrow, while you're...
A survivor of sexual abuse at age 10, Desiree has gone on to turn her pain into a public crusade after emerging from a deep depression.
I want to tell you I'm a survivor.
Her message, when abused, children must speak up and not remain silent.
You need to tell someone, because if you don't, it's going to be inside you forever. And you're going to have that pain that's inside that you're not going to be able to get rid of.
To kids all across the country, she's a leader, a champion for children's rights. Her story began 3 summers ago when 10-year-old Desiree was visiting her divorced father. As usual, during these summer visits, she would spend time with her godfather, Richard Street, who had children Desiree liked to play with.
We were playing Nintendo and eating sub sandwiches, and everything was fine.
When did you know something was wrong?
I had woken up to him massaging me and molesting me.
You cry out or urge him to stop, or did he try to explain what he was doing?
No, I pretended like I was sleeping because I was too scared. And I was telling myself, it's a dream, don't believe it, it's a dream, it's not happening. It's a children's home. It seemed forever, and I never thought it was going to end.
Desiree told us the next day neither she nor her godfather spoke of the incident. She was confused and scared.
I felt that if your godfather can do this to you, who was supposed to love you and take care of you, and you're supposed to trust him, then anyone can do it to you.
The moment that she got back from her father's house, she went straight to her room.
Wayanne Kruger is Desiree's mom. The once wonderful relationship with her daughter seemed to deteriorate overnight.
She started fighting with us, yelling at me a lot, yelling at her sister a lot.
Even though me and my mom were so close, I didn't think that she would believe me because he was so close to the family. And I was afraid that he would hurt someone in my family if I told.
Her grades went down immediately. I mean, right away she lost concentration.
I went into a huge depression where I was wearing all black.
Almost like she was concealing herself.
I wouldn't sleep, and if I did, I'd have horrific nightmares.
She always kept her bedroom door closed. I mean, there were so many signs that she had been sexually abused that it was unbelievable.
Ironically, Wayanne too had been molested as a child. She told Desiree because she suspected that Desiree might have also been abused.
And even after telling her my story, she would just go into a blank.
I didn't feel that I should live my life anymore because it was over. There was nothing left for me to do.
And she said, "Mom, I want to kill myself." That was, and I was beside myself. I mean, I couldn't believe that my 10-year-old, I think she was 10 at the time, said, "I want to kill myself."
You really felt life wasn't worth it anymore, huh?
It wasn't.
She went into therapy to work on her problem and seemed to improve. But when the next summer vacation came around, once again she was to spend time in the home of her godfather, Richard Street, who now had moved to this home in Southern California.
He opened the door, and I saw the look on his face. It felt like 10 million pounds of bricks just hit me and just fell right on my shoulders, and I was crying for my dad not to leave because I didn't want him to leave. But I didn't tell him why. And that night, he approached me and tried to again.
The same thing again?
Yes.
Attempted. What stopped him?
I had the covers tightly tucked underneath me, and I was tossing and turning so he couldn't get in.
After the second time, when he attempted but didn't reach you, you decided to speak out. Who did you tell first, and what was the reaction?
Well, the next morning, I called my biological father, and I was crying. My dad had always said that whatever happens, he'll always believe me, and that I'm his little girl. But that's not the action that he took.
You told him the man he trusted, his best friend, your godfather, had attempted to molest you?
I can say specifically what he told me, and that was that he doesn't believe me because he thinks I was making it up for the attention.
And I was trying to calm her down. "Desiree, what happened?" And she got really quiet. I mean, her tears stopped. She just got silent. And I said, "Did somebody hurt you?" And she mumbled, "Yes." And the first thing after that, I said, "Did Richard touch you?" I knew it. I knew it. I felt it in every part of my soul that that's what happened. I mean, everything came back to me. And she said, "Yes."
Wayanne had finally discovered the cause of Desiree's year-long depression. Together, they decided to go to the police. If it had happened to Desiree, it had happened to others, and they felt Richard Street needed to be stopped. Here in Simi Valley, the little girl's complaint reached the desk of sheriff's investigators. In an effort to get more evidence, they had Desiree phone Street and confront him about the abuse while they recorded the conversation. However, this ploy didn't work. In a 45-minute call, Street admitted nothing. It might have ended there, but 9 months later, there was another development which finally broke the case wide open when another girl, age 10, came forward to complain she too had been molested repeatedly over a 3-year period by Street. In a detailed report to the authorities, she complained Street repeatedly fondled her breasts and vaginal area with his hands. Now with 2 complaints against him, Street confessed. Detective Sue Lewis, who worked on the investigation, believes the second little girl would have never come forward had Desiree not first paved the way.
She has a real sense of what's right. And even though I explained to her at the time that she was going to be going through a series of interviews, that she was going to be going to court, she could possibly be sitting in court on a witness stand in front of the perpetrator in the courtroom. She was undaunted by that.
Detective Lewis says her office sees over 2,000 sex abuse complaints a year, but less than half ever reach the courts because the children are too afraid to speak up. And not only did Desiree speak up, she spoke out, allowing the courts and the press to reveal her identity. Thus, she broke the traditional rule parents and children follow to hide their identity, to avoid the stigma of having been abused.
I felt that I had to do that for the other children, because I know that there were tons just like me that are out there that weren't talking.
I never knew another child that had done it. She would change the world. She'd be the first child, the first girl in the nation that I knew of that would say, I was molested, and this is my real name.
And Desiree pursued her case with a vengeance. She wrote an impassioned letter to top feminist lawyer Gloria Allred and won her sympathies and her services. And on January 12, 1993, the case went to criminal court. It was the first time Desiree had seen Richard Street since the abuse. Ms. Allred read for us the statement she made in court that day.
It is night. It is dark. There is silence. The child is sleeping. Suddenly there is a large man by her bedside. He leans over her. What is more vulnerable than a sleeping child? He places his fingers inside of her. He moves them around, not just once, but continually for 10 minutes. It was 10 minutes of horror in the dark and in silence, inflicted by a man much bigger than a 10-year-old girl. And I asked the court to look at this through the eyes of a child.
I hate him for touching me. I hate him for what he has done to my life. I will never forgive him, and I will never forget what he has done to me.
The defendant is sentenced to the low term of 3 years in state prison.
Richard Street got 3 years, and Desiree had had her day in criminal court. But she wasn't finished. In what's believed to be an unprecedented legal move by a youngster, she attacked Street through a civil lawsuit seeking compensation for the physical and emotional damages she had suffered.
I knew that you have to do something big to get somewhere in life. And what I would like to see come through this lawsuit is more kids coming forward about it. And I want them to know that they can do this.
In this case, there will be no jury.
Okay.
Because
Desiree is a pioneer, very courageous.
I have one question.
Generally, children have been thought to be people who should be in hiding about the abuse that they suffered, to be ashamed. And that is what Desiree has turned upside down. She has indicated that she doesn't feel ashamed. Why should she? She is not the wrongdoer. She's not the perpetrator. She is the innocent victim.
And that's a big part of the message Desiree's trying to spread to children all over the country. To help her, she and her mom have started an organization called CAREM, Children Against Rape and Molestation. She writes a newsletter that's distributed to victims' rights organizations and police stations to let children of abuse know they are not alone. Her mailbox has been filled with letters from abused children who for the first time have someone to turn to.
When I was little, I was molested by a family member about 2 years ago. I told someone about it. Sometimes I feel like that person is going to hurt me.
This is a complicated problem for a lot of kids. What advice do you tell them?
Well, if they have already been through the abuse, I tell them that I think they should file a police report, and I think that if no one listens to them, they should keep on telling until someone will listen to them.
It got to a point where I was ready to give up, but
Then Desiree came along and it changed my mind. It made me want to go on.
Closer to home, Jill Webb is a friend of Desiree's from school. It was only after she heard about Desiree going public that she too decided to talk about her own abuse.
When you were molested, did you have somewhere to turn? Did you have someone to speak to about it?
No, I was so scared that he might hurt me or one of my family that I just kept it inside and had nowhere to go.
Have you been shocked? Have you been surprised to learn that you're not alone, even though you felt terribly alone in trying to deal with this?
I was surprised, but I wasn't shocked. I mean, the statistics are just horrific. And there's so many kids that are out there being abused. And they need help. Dear Desiree, I bet you feel the same way as I do. I can't believe my grandpa did this to me. I wish I could punch him for the nasty thing. Hi, Desiree. I was sexually abused when I was 6 years old. It was by my babysitter's husband. Dear Desiree, I'm proud of you. I feel like you listen and understand. Dear Desiree, I was abused by my mommy and dad and friends and sister. Desiree, I love you.
I think children need to be empowered. They need to tell anyone who will listen about what's happening. And in Desiree's case, she did that, and she was listened to, and I think that's worked out really good for her.
In the case of Bartak versus Street.
And just this month, Desiree's lawsuit was settled in California civil court. The judge ruled in Desiree's favor, awarding her over $2 million in damages.
Great. That's right.
Richard Street was not present in the courtroom, but through his attorney, he wanted it stated on the record that he too was a victim and had been sexually abused as a child. For Desiree, this landmark legal decision marked the end of a very difficult period, one in which she lost her childhood, but found instead a voice for abused children everywhere.
Desiree, how are you feeling right now?
Happy.
Of course, you probably will never get that $2 million.
No,
he doesn't have that kind of money.
It's a victory on principle, primarily.
But does Desiree feel then that all children should be open about it?
It's an individual decision, and she knows it is, because it can be so damaging to a child to come out and do this publicly. It has something each child has to choose individually with their parents.
Has it been at all damaging to Desiree?
Oh, she has gone through a terrible experience. In her school, for example, the kids ostracized her, so badgered her, they chased her home in a threatening fashion. She had to take home studies and drop out of public school because they knew that she had been involved in this, and they accused her of leading him on and nasty things like that. It was so untrue.
And what about her relationship with her father?
It's been broken for over a year. Remember, it was his best friend, and he sided with the godfather at one point, so it's a very, very difficult situation.
So it was very brave of her to do this.
Definitely.
Well, next on the program, a life-saving effort like you've never seen before. A medical team that joins forces to give this infant a new heart. I'll take you on a search for a donor and into the operating room with a world-famous transplant surgeon. You will witness joy and anguish and an amazing ending.
Dad, could you leave the door open a crack?
How's that?
Could you check the closet one more time?
Nothing here.
Are you sure there's nothing under my bed?
Nope, no monsters here. Okay?
Okay.
Good night, buddy.
Dad?
Yeah?
Could you leave the hall light on?
Every time Mercedes-Benz introduces a new car, other car companies rush to follow. And when Mercedes-Benz introduces a whole class of new cars, others scramble to catch up. Now Mercedes-Benz is introducing the new E-Class, featuring the powerful E420 V8. Other car companies may find this one even harder to follow.
If another company is promising your business big savings compared to AT&T, compare our best price to theirs. You may discover those big savings are just an illusion. Leaving AT&T doesn't make a lot of sense. Another company may be promising your business big savings compared to AT&T, but they're comparing apples to oranges. When you compare our best price to theirs, you'll discover leaving AT&T doesn't make a lot of sense.
Have you smelled Clorox bleach lately?
Smells like a cool, clean ocean breeze.
Fresh, fresh, so fresh.
Smells like the sunshine through the trees.
Fresh, fresh, so fresh.
Fresh Sans Clorox bleach.
As the amount you spend with your Discover card goes up, your interest rate goes down with the Smart Rate program. So use the Discover card, where the percentages are always in your favor. It pays to Discover.
Gear up for a Comedy Power Weekend. First on Saturday.
I'm blind. I'm deaf.
They're witnesses to murder.
Get rid of it!
Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder in See No Evil, Hear No Evil, Saturday. Then on Sunday, Michael Caine and Steve Martin team up.
Nice!
A couple of playboys out to take their women
Come on!
for everything they're worth. Steve Martin and Michael Caine are dirty, rotten scoundrels for a Comedy Power Weekend. See No Evil, Hear No Evil, Saturday, and Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, Sunday.
Jack, Arnie, Lee, and Ray. 4 of the game's greatest names play golf's most entertaining event, the Senior Skins Game, Saturday on ABC.
I'm about to take you on a remarkable medical journey to save a newborn boy. It's an odyssey fraught with risk and emotion and perhaps controversy over how far we should go to save an infant's life. Tonight you'll be part of the incredible process of heart transplant surgery, and you'll experience a family's anxiety, the urgent search for a donor, and the wonder of this very precise procedure. And for the first time, you'll witness the transfer of life from one child to another. The birth of Austin Peterson last August 3rd. The beginning of a voyage his parents, Dominica and Kent, know will be a rough one.
It's Daddy, son. What are they doing to me?
Their son has a condition that's almost always fatal. It was 4 months before that the Petersons had first learned something was wrong with their baby at a routine office visit.
We had the sonogram at, I think, 1:30, and at 3 o'clock they called me at home and said, we only see 3 chambers in the heart. And that's when they dropped the bomb, basically, and we were pretty nervous.
A few days later, doctors confirmed the worst. A large part of the right side of Austin's heart was virtually non-existent, a condition known as hypoplastic right heart syndrome.
We couldn't have an abortion because we had watched him so many times on the monitors of the sonogram, and he was so alive that we just couldn't do anything like that. So we were just going to have him and take it one day at a time.
Everything's okay, son.
But the Petersons did have one realistic alternative, to give their child a heart transplant. So they came here to Loma Linda and its chief of surgery, Dr. Leonard Bailey. This is one of the surgical suites at the Loma Linda University Medical Center, about 2 hours east of Los Angeles. It's here over the past several years that Dr. Bailey and his team have been perfecting the art of implanting the working hearts of children who have died into the bodies of children who will die without this surgery. The surgery is complicated and long and has often been done on infants just hours old. And in many cases, the hearts Dr. Bailey works with are really tiny, weighing no more than a regular envelope. And although the surgery is life-saving, it has also at times been controversial.
It has never been done before, not successfully, and not on a patient so small.
The announcement that Dr. Bailey had transplanted the heart of a baby baboon into a dying child made headlines back in 1984. Baby Faye, as she became known, died after 20 days, but not from the transplant. She had other complications, but to Bailey, it was worth it.
She sort of announced to the world that, hey, look out, babies need transplants too. Take notice, folks, and baby organs can be used.
So a year later, he did his next transplant. This time, he put a human heart into a newborn baby. Eddie Aguirre was the patient.
You want to go play in your house?
That was 8 years ago. This is Eddie today, the oldest surviving infant heart transplant patient. Because he was in such poor medical condition before the transplant, some problems linger today. His coordination is poor, and he has problems with speech. But with a little prompting from his mom, he can tell you what Bailey did for him.
He took out your bad heart, and then what else did he do?
Put a new one in.
He put a new
one in, and you're better now.
Pretty good. Not many people get to get a replacement like that. So that does make you special. Eddie was just the first. In the following 8 years, there were many more babies given new hearts, and this picture tells it all. There are now close to 175 infants with a second chance.
You can waken up, Joanna.
And while the doctors wait for hearts, more babies are born with heart defects.
Yeah, well, here, pop two. Oh, yeah.
It's estimated that thousands of babies are born with underdeveloped or badly developed hearts each year. While some can be cured with conventional surgery, others will die without a transplant. The left side of young Brandon's heart is drastically abnormal, and he's been waiting for a heart for 2 months.
This baby has absolutely no hope.
Without the transplant?
Without intervention. And when I was a pup in the business, the parents were pulled aside and talked to about the fact this baby was not going to live. And they could take the baby home and they would die there, or they could leave the baby here in hospital and he would die either way.
Because there was no technique. For Dominica, in the days following her son's delivery, it's not her son's condition that troubles her. Doctors tell her he seems to be holding his own. But it is her own mixed emotions.
I hadn't had a big opportunity to hold him or even bond with him. And I thought, well, if he's going to go, I don't want to be hurt. But as time goes on, he's just my little guy. And I love him.
What are you dreaming about, son?
The feelings are much the same for Kent. He and Dominica visit Austin daily and just sit with him.
He just loves to be held and just really the touch. You know, I was there the first day with him. I made sure that I touched and communicated it.
While some parents prepare for the worst, the Petersons seem to be preparing for the best.
We're going to get a heart, and he's going to come home, and my little girl's going to get to hold him, and he's going to go to school, and he's going to play soccer, and he's going to do good.
And what does she tell her other child, her 2-year-old daughter, Nicolette, about all this?
That her baby brother's in the hospital, and he's sick, and he's got a broken heart, and we're waiting for a new heart.
Oh.
But as the days pass by, the Petersons' anxiety grows. They know any minute Austin's heart could fail. And they also know if he is to live, another child elsewhere will have to die. These people are the transplant coordinators at Loma Linda. It's here that the hospital will first get word they have a donor for Austin. His name has already been placed on a computerized list, which connects donors and recipients from around the country. But these people also know the hard facts that some kids die each year waiting for a heart that never comes.
Transplant office, this is Sheila.
Oh, Sheila, good afternoon. Alan.
The job of bringing the heart in falls to this man, Alan Chatsfield. When the word comes a heart is available, he gets on the phone to arrange the air logistics of getting Bailey's team to the donor and back as soon as possible.
I'll beep you.
Thanks.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
It's at 9 o'clock on the night of August 24th that word comes there is a heart for Austin. Within a couple of hours, Alan Chatsfield has arranged for a jet to pick up Bailey's team.
He's already, and the plane's already here. The guy's here.
This night, it is Dr. Bailey's colleague, Dr. Agnes Razuk, who will fly out and get the heart. He arrives at the airport just before midnight with an assistant and 2 nurses.
Yeah, we're texting out. Probably about 3 minutes or so we'll be off.
At 12:30, the plane departs. By this time, the Petersons are at the hospital spending what could be their last hours with young Austin. Back in the plane, the lights are turned off. The team rests. It is 2 hours later that the plane comes down at a city in the Midwest. We're not permitted to tell you where, as all information about the donor is confidential.
Okay, here you go.
After a 5-minute ambulance ride, the team arrives at a nearby hospital. They carry their own surgical instruments and a cooler that will be used to transport the donor's heart back to Loma Linda. Inside the hospital, Dr. Razuk is eager to know what he'll face in the operating room.
Has the donor been stable?
When I left, it was okay. Hi, Alan. We're just getting into the operating room. I'm pretty sure...
In the operating room, the other doctors have been at work for several hours preparing the baby for the transplant team.
It will be ready.
It's now almost 10 to 4, 10 to 6 local time. Dr. Razuk begins work on taking out the donor's heart that Dr. Bailey will later transplant into Austin.
You want to get your aortic line hooked up? Collecting the heart part of the operation is perhaps the most vital part of it. That isn't done well when we get back here. All the fancy surgery in the world doesn't mean a thing. The heart has got to work when we get here. So it has to be taken very, very carefully.
You can almost forget that there was once a living child here. The donor, an 18-month-old boy, had died a few hours before from a grave illness. His parents had wanted to turn their son's death into someone else's life. Now a mechanical ventilator keeps their baby's organs alive by pumping oxygen through his lungs and body. From where we stand, it is clear this child was the possessor of a strong heart. It is now 6:10 local time. The doctors have been at work almost 20 minutes. Dr. Razuk clamps off the main vessels to the heart, and all the movement stops within the child's chest.
Stop the aortic.
The room has an eerie silence. There's no reading on the heart monitor anymore. Dr. Razuk then removes the small heart and moves to a side table to work on it. There he trims the excess tissue and prepares the heart to fit in young Austin's chest. Then the heart is washed thoroughly with cold water and a solution to preserve it. Finally, Dr. Razuk gently picks up the heart and places it in a plastic bag. It's hard to imagine this heart could possibly beat again.
Yes, thank you very much.
The doctors leave carrying the cooler with the heart packed in ice in it.
How long will it take, Laura?
Now the team wastes no time.
About 50 minutes.
When they get outside, it's almost morning. Back in the operating room, the other surgeons are still at work, taking out the child's liver that will be used to save another life. Within a few minutes, the team is on its way back to Loma Linda, back in the air. As the plane comes west over the Rockies, day is breaking, and the crew is getting some sleep. Back in California, young Austin also sleeps. In about an hour, he will be prepared for his new heart.
Absolutely amazing. Well, as one family grieves for their child, another is given a gift of hope. Will their newborn son survive the delicate heart transplant? The conclusion of Hugh's dramatic report coming up. And later, the plot against skater Nancy Kerrigan. How did it unfold? Stay with us.
You know hand washing is great for your clothes, but who has time? Trust Woolite in the Gentle Cycle. It turns the Gentle Cycle into a hand washing cycle because Woolite won't shrink, stretch, or fade. Trust Woolite for hand washed care in the Gentle Cycle.
We're using high-resolution robotic cameras in order to give you a closer look at the fit and finish of our Lincoln cars. To achieve this kind of quality, we not only employ technologically advanced machines, we also employ dedicated people who bring to Lincoln a craftsmanship that can't be duplicated by a mere machine. Sorry, fellas. Lincoln, what a luxury car should be.
Okay, here goes. Abracadabra. No dialing? Like Shazam? Just my voice? Okay, okay. Call home. It works. I knew it would.
Call now for the revolutionary voice-activated phone card, only from Sprint.
Glidden paints cover the first time, so you can get back to what you really enjoy doing.
Holding number 89, that be 10 yards, but they decline.
And now save during Glidden's Fresh Start Paint Sale. Glidden, a better way to paint.
What do you reckon this bowl of cereal costs?
About 50 cents.
75 cents.
Take a bite of that and tell me what you think.
80 cents.
About $1.25.
That serving of cereal with the milk is less than a quarter.
Not a whole bowl? That's pretty good.
Less than 25 cents.
It's Kellogg's Corn Flakes.
Kellogg's Corn Flakes. Original and best.
I remember the chicken on the cover.
It's a rooster.
Kellogg's Corn Flakes. Another reason to taste them again for the first time.
You can't even buy a postage stamp for 25 cents anymore.
Saturday.
Let's move.
The feds protect a deadly drug dealer.
You can't touch me.
But Tony's making his own rules.
Blackwood is scum. Trouble is, we need him to catch even worse scum. We'll answer to the feds. Freeze!
The Commish, Saturday.
Monday, he wears the robes, he talks the talk. This unorthodox priest is inspiring a crime-ridden community to take back their streets. And he'll inspire you. Plus, Tony Bennett. What's going on? He's on MTV and at the top of the charts.
He has the same charisma that a Mick Jagger had.
Day 1, Monday at 8, 7 Central.
I'm all dressed up tonight.
A dramatic team effort to save a newborn. He will have a new heart, but will he survive the surgery? Will his body accept a gift from the heart? Hugh Downs with the memorable conclusion of this story of hope when 2020 continues after this from our ABC stations.
At Perico Lincoln Mercury, the 1994 outlook for savings has never been better. Right now, there's a 100% chance that you'll save money. We're offering Mercury quality at Ford prices. Cold as it is outside, these are unseasonably hot deals on the inside on the new 94 Mercury Tracer wagon with all this equipment. Perico's unbeatable price, $94.81. Yes, you can afford a new 94 Mercury at Perico Lincoln Mercury, 54th and Peach in Erie. Come on in and see me today. You won't be disappointed.
This is Villa Maria Academy. Applications for Villa Maria Academy are due February 1st. Be a part of Villa.
Good evening. From Action News, one person was killed, another injured in a two-vehicle accident in Hayfield Township, Crawford County this evening. State Attorney General's office agents arrested 2 people in Erie today on heroin charges. Extradition proceedings started to return a Cleveland man to Erie to face murder charges in connection with the death of an elderly Erie woman. Some creditors are trying to force the Elephant Bar in Mill Creek Township into involuntary bankruptcy. An ice flow in Cleveland was too much for at least one house, and several retiring state troopers honored this evening. All the news, sports, and AccuWeather in about 23 minutes.
It's John McGowan, the All-America Team Super Bowl sale.
Super team! Hey!
Nearly 700 vehicles.
Super inventory!
America's greatest nameplate, Chevy, Geo, Buick, Olds, Pontiac, Jeep Eagle.
How about a super deal?
94 Chevy S10, 9155.
Chevy Cavalier, 8900.
Buick Skylark, 134.
We're kicking off the Super Bowl sale of the year. If you want it, we got it.
It's John McGowan, the All-American Team from Andover, Ohio.
Super!
Saturday's Super 7 lottery is worth at least $2 million. See it live on TV 24.
Once again, Barbara Walters.
Our family's heroic sacrifice is about to give little Austin Peterson a second chance. As the donor heart is being transported west, the Peterson family and the medical team prepare themselves for the surgery. As Hugh's report continues, we take you through the final crucial steps in this life-saving process. In a short time, Austin's future will be in the hands of Dr. Bailey.
It's 7:34, 7 hours since they first left, and the plane is landing at Norton Air Force Base just a few miles from the hospital. The team is awake and ready to go. They get out and make their way to the waiting ambulance. In the operating room a few miles away, Dr. Bailey has been waiting for word the plane is on the ground.
Everything all right?
When he gets it, the surgery begins. Carrying the heart, Dr. Razouk arrives at the hospital. It's been 4 hours now since they took it out of the donor, and the doctor does not waste a minute. By the time he gets there, Dr. Bailey has been at work for 20 minutes. He has already connected Austin to a heart-lung machine that controls Austin's circulation and blood temperature. When he sees Dr. Razouk, Dr. Bailey orders all the blood be taken out of Austin's body.
It allows us to get in and reconstruct the aortic arch, the main blood vessel leading out of the heart to the body. It needs reconstruction all the way around past the backbone. And the only way to get gracefully at that reconstruction is to arrest the baby's circulation altogether.
It is a strange scene. A young infant with literally no blood in his system. His heart stopped. Yet he's alive in a state of hibernation. Possible only because his body has been cooled down.
One more 16.
Now it's Dr. Bailey's turn to watch the clock. With the child's circulation arrested, he has about 50 minutes to remove Austin's old heart and replace it with the new one. He makes it look simple, but believe me, it is not. The blood vessels around the heart are almost microscopic. That's why they're wearing those special glasses. First, he methodically and precisely removes Austin's defective heart. Then, he carefully positions the new heart that Dr. Razuk has brought back. And then each artery and vein is painstakingly reconnected. There is no room for a mistake. When the job is done, young Austin is reattached to the heart-lung machine. And this time, warm blood is recirculated through his new heart and body.
All the connections are made now, and things look really quite good. The heart is spontaneously recovering from that long period of time in the cooler.
In the beginning, the new heart barely moves. And then suddenly, on its own, it begins to twitch. Slowly, it begins to come back to life.
It's an awesome thing to experience this amazing transformation. I never get over it. Maybe I'm hooked on it, a little like endorphin. But the notion that you can turn a baby's life around with this simple maneuver is just really remarkable to me. For people who haven't observed, particularly heart transplantation, it's a stunning event.
What is also amazing is that the heart Dr. Bailey has implanted is 3 times as large as Austin's old heart. Remember, it came from an older child. But this new heart will shrink and eventually fit right in. As the time goes by, the heart gets stronger. Its beat more regular, but it's still being assisted by the heart-lung machine. And finally, after an hour, Dr. Bailey orders the machine turned off.
All right, you come off now.
Okay, coming off bypass, sir. Off the pump, sir.
Thank you.
The transplanted heart is beating on its own, without any assistance. And it is an impressive sight. The operation is over. But it was that moment when the heart first came alive that never fails to move Dr. Bailey.
It's a miracle. It is an absolute miracle, and I never
I was going to ask if you ever got used to this.
Never. I never do, and I don't think I'm unique. As I talk with my colleagues in this industry, that is the moment of truth, and that's the miracle of heart transplantation.
Now our son has a new heart, and we told it it's pumping, and you know, it went quicker than what we had expected.
In a passageway not far from the operating room, we spoke to Dominica and Kent. Tired but happy, they'd been up all night too. Their thoughts turned to the child whose death had given their child life.
You know, we bless his little soul and his family for, you know, being courageous enough to be able to donate. And, you know, someday if anything happens to me or anyone in our family, we hope we can return the favor to somebody else.
Back in the operating room, the nurses move Austin onto a baby stretcher. It is 12 noon. Might we later see him as a 50-year-old man who is hale and hearty?
No doubt about it.
Good.
No doubt about it. If I felt that we weren't on the track to longevity, I would be very dismayed and very considerably less interested in pursuing transplantation in newborns. I have no desire whatsoever to set babies up for early death.
It is 12 days after the surgery. September 6th, Labor Day. Kent and Dominica are back at the hospital, this time to pick up Austin.
It's a big day, honey.
He's got a smile. He knows he's going home.
Oh, I'm so happy. You're ready to go home, huh?
For the last several days, they've been learning how to look after their baby.
Do I have to change the dressing on it, or?
From now on, for the rest of his life, Austin will get daily doses of anti-rejection drugs to prevent his body from trying to get rid of his new heart.
Okay.
And it'll be up to Kent and Dominica to administer them.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Time to go home. It's a moment Dominica thought would never come.
Oh, man. This feels so weird to just walk with him.
Just take your time and finally got your wish. Take him home.
Month later.
When I met with the Petersons, it was 6 weeks after that. I began by asking what those first few hours at home were like.
It was an emotional meltdown.
With that all behind you now, do you have any regrets about any aspect of it?
I would do it again in a second.
Recently, they visited the child's family near Milwaukee. The child, Alexander Torgerson, had died of SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome. Sitting in the Torgersons' living room with a picture of Alexander facing him on the wall, Chuck Shin expressed his gratitude.
We just got to thank you guys so much for what you did for us and for this little boy. And I know how hard this must be on you, too. And I thank you for letting us come out here and see you. I don't know if I could ever tell you how thankful we are for you guys.
For those who still wonder whether it's all worth it, whether these kids will, in fact, grow up to be productive adults, look again at these children and listen to the words of Dr. Bailey.
I think I've come to understand that what it does for the planet Earth is it provides a ray of hope. It says something, the very best parts of human beings are involved in this process. It strikes a note of hope even for people who have no hope. And for that reason, it's worth doing. For that reason alone.
Boy, if it's your child, you sure think it's worthwhile. What is the success rate? And they're growing up.
It's very high, Barbara. Since the mid-'80s, over 80% of these children that have had new hearts are alive and well. And one reason is that infants don't have their immune system as well together as you and I do. So they're less likely to reject a donor organ.
That's interesting. You would think it the other way around.
Yeah, but it works to their advantage that way.
Is it very difficult to find these teeny hearts?
It is. You know, even though 40,000 infants a year in this country die, it's very hard to find donors still, because it takes parents with the courage to realize that if their child can live on some part of it in another child and save another life. But there are those donors out there.
They have to get through their own grief and try to help.
You have to salute them, too.
Thank you, Hugh, for bringing this to us. Well, we're going to be right back with the latest on the Tonya Harding scandal. Stay with us.
Before they could start at the 1994 Winter Games, we started. 4 years ago, IBM was here helping plan and design every event. The Lillehammer Olympic Organizing Committee chose IBM, not just to integrate thousands of computers and systems, but to actually help manage the Winter Games. A job, we're told, equivalent to putting on 2 Super Bowls a day for 16 days. Well, we've been here, preparing the world for what's to follow the great starts, the great finishes. The 1994 Olympic Winter Games, gold, silver, bronze, and blue.
So, where's the boss today?
Picked up his new car.
What'd he get? The BMW? The Lexus?
Neither. He got the Bonneville.
Really?
Said it had anti-lock brakes, leather, dual airbags. Said with all that and the way it drives, he couldn't see spending 10 to 20 grand more.
He likes bargains.
He likes cars.
One night, not long ago, an otherwise quiet town in Texas became not so quiet. When an explosion shook the town, GTE was there with the only link to the outside world, GTE MobileNet.
Great! Yeah, I'm glad I got you!
Not every day is like that one, but for more than 1 million GTE cellular customers, clear, reliable service is just as vital.
Sorry, I'm gonna be late. Thanks for letting me know. It's not the end of the world.
GTE MobileNet. Another way it's amazing what we can do together.
90210's Jenny Garth is an abused wife.
I own you.
Who finally fights back. Will the system punish her or protect her? Based on a true story. Lies of the Heart. Monday. Parental discretion advised. Winner of 2 Golden Globes.
You didn't do anything, huh? And you didn't puke all over my shoes and the bottom of my pants!
Including Best Drama and Best Actor David Caruso.
Police! Hit it!
NYPD Blue, Tuesday. Viewer discretion advised.
What if the government exploded atomic bombs in your backyard and said there was no danger? It happened to them. Peter Jennings reports on what may be the largest cover-up in U.S. history. From ABC News, Turning Point, Wednesday at 10, 9 Central.
Almost everyone in the country is aware of the attack on skater Nancy Kerrigan. But what you may not be aware of, and what shocked us, is this instrument. This baton is the same kind used in the assault. It is unbelievably heavy, and look at the kind of damage it can do. It's obviously capable of very serious damage. Well, fortunately, the attack on Kerrigan failed to eliminate her from the Olympics. But it wasn't for lack of trying on the part of the men charged in the crime. As Lynn Shure reports, for days before the attack, Kerrigan was being followed as her assailant waited for a chance to strike.
Champion figure skater Nancy Kerrigan, right after she was attacked January 6th in Detroit. Fear and pain and disbelief in her face that anyone could have been so brutal.
What do we know of the failed plot itself and the apparently incompetent group of men police have charged with the attack? So intent on destruction, they traveled from one end of the country to the other to make sure they got their victim.
Here are the men police say took part in this bizarre plot, a plot that left a surprisingly obvious trail. Jeff Gillooly, 26, who police say was the mastermind. Shane Stant, 22 years old, a weightlifter and unemployed bar bouncer. Police say he actually hit Kerrigan with the collapsible police baton. Derek Smith, 29, Stant's uncle by marriage. Authorities say he drove the getaway car after the attack. Sean Eckert, 26 years old, about 320 pounds. He'd been Harding's bodyguard and acted as go-between to hire the hitman. Here is a partial chronology of the plot, according to statements made to authorities by Stant, Smith, and Eckert. The last week in December, Stant and Smith drive from their homes near Phoenix to Portland for a meeting at the home of Eckert, who, as we've mentioned, is Tonya Harding's bodyguard. They all join Harding's former husband, Gillooly, to discuss the plan to injure Nancy Kerrigan. Smith and Stant would be paid $6,500 by Gillooly. Eckert says Gillooly told Stant to hit Kerrigan in the right knee. That would prevent her from competing because her right leg is her landing leg when she jumps.
One man said, why don't we just kill her? And another man said, we don't need to kill her. Why don't we just hit her in the knee?
Gary Crow, a private investigator who was not part of the plot, went to the FBI with a minister friend who'd heard a taped conversation by the alleged attackers. It led to their arrests. Sometime after the meeting to plan the attack, money is wired to Smith and Stant as they track Kerrigan around the country. The money moves from a Western Union office in this Cub food store in Vancouver, Washington. The money is passed from Gillooly to Eckert to Stant and Smith. Eckert says telephone calls are placed from the home up this driveway, shared by Gillooly and Harding, to find out Kerrigan's practice schedule in Boston. December 28th, Stant flies from Portland to Boston to find Kerrigan. He checks in at the Hilton Hotel at the Boston airport, leaves after 2 days, and moves to the Gull Wing Suites in Yarmouth, Massachusetts, not far from the Tony Kent Arena, where Kerrigan is practicing for the Olympics. But Stant miscalculates and misses her, and on January 3rd checks out of the Gull Wing Suites and takes a bus to Detroit, where Kerrigan and Harding are scheduled to compete that week at the U.S. National Figure Skating Championships. Stant registers near Detroit at the Super 8 Motel, room 122, and pays $33.92 a night.
2 days later, Stant checks out the Detroit Arena, Cobo Hall, and Smith flies in from Phoenix to help in the attack on Kerrigan the following day.
January 6th, both of them take another look at the skating arena, where Kerrigan is practicing. Meanwhile, according to charges by Eckert, Tonya Harding has implicated herself in the plot by supplying Kerrigan's practice schedule for the plan. Eckert tells Primetime's Diane Sawyer that Harding knew in advance about the planned attack.
She knew that it had been initiated. She knew that it was going to take place.
Harding denies those accusations.
I had no prior knowledge of the planned assault on Nancy Kerrigan.
That assault is carried out January 6th. And this enlarged videotape shows the attacker escaping. Shane Stent, the assailant, according to the police, makes it to a waiting getaway car, not realizing, of course, that within a few days, the entire plot will unravel.
Well, Tanya, of course, has now admitted that she knew about it. She says she learned about it after the attack. But the big question is what happens with her? And Lynn is in Portland right now. Lynn, what is the legal situation at this moment?
Hugh, no word from the grand jury on any indictments in this case today. That's legally. On the Olympic front, the U.S. Figure Skating Association has formed a panel that will meet next week to investigate whether Tonya Harding should remain on the U.S. Olympic team.
And what's she doing now with all this going on around her?
Amazingly, Hugh, she's practicing on this public rink today. I was watching, along with about 1,000 people, applauding her while she did her leaps and jumps, her triple axel. I asked people how they felt. They were very supportive. One person said she was probably a battered wife. Another said she's been working too hard to throw it away. Someone else said, I want to believe her. And finally someone said, I can hardly wait to see the movie. Hugh?
Thank you, Lynn. We'll be right back.
Another company may be promising your business big savings compared to AT&T, but they're comparing apples to oranges. When you compare our best price to theirs, you'll discover leaving AT&T doesn't make a lot of sense.
Good morning. You've got to try Muslix.
Muse what?
What do I do with it?
It doesn't sound good.
Though the name Muslix may not sound very good, you've got to try Muslix.
No, thank you.
Everyone's surprised at how delicious it tastes. This is Muslix. This is good.
Almonds? Something sweet. Muslix has fruit and nuts.
Kellogg's Muslix cereal has a cup of fruit and nuts in each box.
Did I say it was a weird name? It's a great name. You've got to try this. Can I have some too?
Kellogg's Muslix.
You've
got to try Muslix.
If another company is promising your business big savings compared to AT&T, compare our best price to theirs. You may discover those big savings are just an illusion. Leaving AT&T doesn't make a lot of sense.
I'm Don Shriver. Coming up, a fatal accident in Crawford County this evening. 2 arrested in Erie today on heroin charges. More on the suspect in the Smith murder case. A mistrial declared for the second Menendez brother in Los Angeles. Tonya Harding could be facing more trouble ahead after a news conference yesterday. And counseling at Northeast High School after a 15-year-old committed suicide. We'll have all the news, sports, and AccuWeather next on Action News.
Monday night is day one. Host Forrest Sawyer joins us with a look at the upcoming program. Forrest?
Barbara, Monday on day one, he's hip and he's hot. A singer who plays out to sold-out crowds around the world, from jazz clubs to rock concerts. We're talking about Tony Bennett, who's just been discovered again, this time by a whole new generation. That's Monday on day one. You?
Thanks, Forrest. Don't forget to watch Nightline after your local news. Oliver North is the guest, now a candidate for the U.S. Senate. And that's 2020 for tonight. We thank you for joining us.
And remember, we're in touch, so you be in touch. I'm Barbara Walters.
And I'm Hugh Downs.
And for all of us here at 2020, have a good weekend. Good night.
"2020 is a presentation of ABC News. More Americans get their news from ABC News than from any other source. The American Broadcasting Company, ABC.
Your Buick Connection present the 14995 Century. Big car ride, including airbag, anti-lock brakes, power windows and locks, cruise and more, 14995.
Century. At this price, he gets my stamp of approval.
Hurry into your Buick Connection, the 14995 Century. Value you can count on.
1985.
1968.
74. I'll tell you the worst winter, 78. I dumped 33 tons of salt and 27